Very nice work, everyone. We made it to the last lesson in advanced HTML and CSS. I'm really proud of everyone who's made it to this point. We have learned so much, and we're going to wrap it up with lesson 15, interaction. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use CSS to add interactivity to our web pages, which is going to allow you users to change styles very smoothly by hovering or clicking over any element with their mouse, okay? The first exercise is button interaction. In this exercise, we are trying to work with these buttons that we see here on the web page. Okay, CSS styling is often used to make button interactions more intuitive. Okay, it should be clear to users which elements are clickable and which ones are not. So our job: style the buttons with the class clickable such that the background color gets lighter when you hover over the button and darker when you click it. Okay, so that's two different pseudo classes. We'll talk about that in a second. Style the buttons with the class unclickable such that the background color is always grayed out no matter what the user does to the button. Okay, so one of the buttons should be not accessible and we'll just gray it out. And then finally, use the CSS rule cursor not allowed to disable the cursor on the unclickable button as well. Okay, so let's get started. When we run this code, we should see that we have a few buttons: clickable, unclickable, reload, and quit. Okay, we want to work with the clickable class. Okay, so that's the first button. And we want, oh, and the third button, they're both in the class clickable. So that's the clickable button and the reload button. We want these to be lighter when we hover and darker when we click on it. So let's do that in the CSS. Okay, so for activating the hover state, we'll first need to create a selector for that. So that will activate the clickable class. And we want it to be darker when we hover over it. Okay, so this is going to be dot clickable colon hover. Okay, to activate our hover pseudo class. Okay, and one of our filters that can do this, the darker lighter, is probably going to be the brightness filter. Okay, but just to double check, I'm just quickly looking through the filters here. So yeah, I think brightness might be the best filter to go with in this case. So brightness adjusts the brightness of an image. 0% makes it completely black. 100% is the default of the image. So anything over 100 is going to provide brighter results. We are going to say that when we hover over the image, that we want the brightness filter to be 150%, okay, because right now it's at 100%. And when we are actively clicking on it, that would activate the active pseudo class. Then we want to reduce the brightness. Okay, so remember, since brightness is default at 100, I'm just going to have it and see how that works. All right, let's save that and test out our first and third buttons and see if that works. Okay, so when I hover over it, it's bright, a lot brighter. And when I click on it, it's darker. Okay, so this is an example of using CSS to make buttons more intuitive to use. And this should also work with reload since that's in the clickable class. All right, so I think that takes care of our clickable buttons. Now we want to work on the unclickable and gray those out. So unclickable and quit, I believe those are both in the unclickable class. That's correct. We want those to be completely grayed out. So style the buttons with the class unclickable such that the background color is always grayed out no matter what the user does to the button. Okay, so that is going to be unclickable active, comma, unclickable. I'm just going to put it together in one rule since it doesn't matter whatever they're doing to it. Oh, okay. So actually we don't even need to specify a state. So we're just going to gray it out. Okay, it does not matter if it's actively being clicked on, hovered over, if it's already been visited, it doesn't matter. It's always going to be grayed out. So the filter for this, okay, hopefully you remembered, but the filter we want to use for this one is grayscale. This converts the image to grayscale. 0 is the default, which represents the original image. 100% will make it completely gray. So we want to take that grayscale all the way up to 100% for our unclickable class. And that should apply to both buttons. Let's refresh our web page and see what we get. Okay, that looks good. So unclickable and quit are now both grayed out. And we also want to disable the cursor. So when we're clicking or hovering over unclickable and quit, we shouldn't see that mouse cursor. Okay, so we can get rid of that with this little line of code here, cursor not allowed. Okay, so cursor in this case is the property and not allowed is the value, which will disable the cursor. Okay, so one last time, let's refresh. Okay, so now when we go over unclickable and quit, we should see that red kind of slash sign basically saying this is not accessible, these do not work, and that should definitely be a signal to the website visitor that these are not usable. Okay, so that wraps up our first exercise, button interaction. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. Let's keep it up. We are almost done with advanced HTML. Very nice work, everyone.